This is The Good Government Show.
There's so many issues to get fired up about right now. And unfortunately, we're seeing so much partisanship play out in ways that are hurting democracy as a whole. I believe that good governance includes giving people opportunities, but not necessarily dependencies. Not everybody works as a public servant for the same reason that I do. And so I have to know that, I have to respect that, and move forward in spite of. Right now, I'm 39 years old, and all of my colleagues on my board of commissioners are old enough to be my grandparent. We need those people who can see tomorrow to be a part of the decision-making today.
Welcome to The Good Government Show. I'm your host, Dave Martin. On this episode, we're going to meet a county commissioner from Chatham County, Georgia. That's Savannah, Georgia. You're about to hear from Aaron Adot Whiteley. I'll let him tell you where the Adot comes from. First, there are several things impressive about Commissioner Whiteley. First, this is a guy who at one point lived off of food stamps. That gives him a personal perspective on what it's like to live off assistance. That, he says, helps him be better at helping others in need. But he was also able to turn his life around, in part by joining the Army. He's a combat veteran who served time in Afghanistan. He came home, married, and is raising a family in his hometown. He's also a coach for both boys and girls sports. He's an entrepreneur, and he owns a small business. Mostly, he's someone who cares about preserving democracy. We spent some time talking about another Georgia County Commissioner, Jerica Richardson, a Cobb County Commissioner. As you will hear Commissioner Whiteley explain, she was redistricted out of her seat. After she was elected, she was told her seat is no longer a valid county commissioner seat. We talked to Commissioner Richardson back in season 3, and that was episode 17. And that was over a year ago. She outlined then what was going on. If you haven't listened, make sure you do. She's a dynamic and exciting commissioner pulled into public service for the reasons you want someone to run for office. Check out the link on our website. Or listen now. I'll wait. Okay, I'll wait. Or check it out after you listen to this one. Either way, make sure you listen to her. That's Commissioner Jerica Richardson. Currently, as of the fall of 2024, Commissioner Richardson is serving as a de facto Cobb County Commissioner. She has petitioned the court, and she's allowed to take her seat in a de facto category. She's awaiting a ruling by the Georgia state courts, which will decide if she can represent a district that didn't vote for her, or if the redrawing was not proper. Either way, as she explained, and Commissioner Whiteley will tell you, it shouldn't have happened this way. Anyway, back to my conversation with Adot. We talked about Savannah. It's a beautiful historic city. We talk about the movie Forrest Gump. You'll hear. We talk about Savannah's growth as a port city. There's a lot going on, and I'm glad Commissioner Whiteley is in office. And when you listen to him, you'll be glad too. That's all coming up right after this. The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government more effective. Ourco provides the OUR platform, and this is an app that blends in-person and digital interactions to connect people with their government, their county, their town, their state. The Ourco app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data. They can turn results into projects and programs the community has essentially already approved. It's sort of like a flash poll by phone, but without the call and in real time and wherever community members are. Maybe they're at their house or their office or where they're out just talking about local issues. Maybe the choice is between putting in more local buses or expanding the bike lanes. Ourco can get you an answer immediately. With OUR, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, your constituents. So visit ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts.
My name is Aaron Whiteley, Commissioner of Chatham County, the 6th District, Chatham County, Georgia, that is. There is a Chatham County, North Carolina. Our biggest city is the city of Savannah. I've been in office for 3 years now.
You also have another name, Adot. Tell me where Adot comes from.
Yeah, so Adot is a nickname that I came up with when I was in high school. Basically, my first initial in the period, if you will. So A dot, but we spell out the dot, and that name has stuck with me since high school.
So what's happening in Chatham County? What's happening in Savannah? What's the big issue you're dealing with?
So we're experiencing a tremendous amount of growth and economic development in our area. So we're welcoming the economic development, but of course, no good deed goes unpunished. So we're really dealing with a shortage of housing, as well as a need to build up our infrastructure in ways that we hadn't built up to this point. So we're really faced with a time crunch to try to find funding to expand our infrastructure to meet the increased population that's making their way in for jobs. Some of those jobs that are coming, Hyundai is in the process of building a $7 billion electric vehicle manufacturing plant in neighboring Bryan County. That deal was part of the largest economic development deal that the state of Georgia has ever undertook. So the county of Chatham, Bryan County, Effingham County, and Bullock County partnered together to create a state authority to purchase the land, which is where the manufacturing plant is going. Another job producer in the area are some of those suppliers to Hyundai. They're coming and bringing thousands of jobs. So we're looking at about 15,000 jobs within the next 3 years.
Why does everyone want to go to Savannah?
Well, we are very strategically placed for manufacturing. We have one of the fastest growing ports in the country. I think it's the second busiest in the country. And Savannah is part of it. And then an hour down the road is Brunswick, which has another port that all fall under the Georgia Port Authority. I think the other part is just the access to the interstate and where we are on the eastern seaboard. You know, you have Florida that's an hour and 15 minutes down the road, South Carolina that's 20 minutes up the road, up Interstate 95, not to mention we're 3.5 hours from Atlanta.
And it's pretty.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's what I thought you'd start with. I mean, Savannah's a beautiful city.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. You know, very historic, first city in Georgia, and just history galore there. So if you're a history buff, I'd highly recommend a trip to Savannah. If you're a ghost hunter, I highly recommend a trip to Savannah. But
it's got the parks and the squares, and it's just...
Yep, it was the first planned city in the state of Georgia. So again, some of these historic squares remain from the 1700s.
And how often do you watch a modern movie about some weird time in American history, and it's actually, 2 blocks over from where you are?
That's been happening a lot more recently than in the past, and part of it is because Savannah has been a destination for film too.
Right. I mean, I think it stood in for Boston, Washington, New York, other cities going back in time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can... Some of the notable movies, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which a book was made out of it. Forrest Gump, part of that was filmed in Savannah. But you've got a lot of big name producers, directors in town. I mean, at this point right now, Clint Eastwood is in Savannah filming a movie right now.
Do you get an extra part in this?
No. After seeing all the challenges with the Screen Actors Guild and all that, I don't want any part of show business.
So who is the housing crunch affecting most?
I'd say low middle class and below families. Middle class and below. I mean, first of all, COVID really exposed just some of the vulnerabilities in our housing market. And then as you had more people coming, we're seeing new developments in parts of the cities that you hadn't seen. And so people are being forced to move elsewhere. The demand is so high that I mean, I watch people who were paying $800 a month for a studio now paying $1,200 and $1,300 a month. And so the average middle class family can't necessarily afford that, as well as some of the other necessities, such as childcare.
I live in Brooklyn. That's cheap, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, but also you have a more robust, in Brooklyn, New York, a more robust transit system. We have a bus system, but not a full-on transit system that can take you to all corners of our county. So access to employment sometimes is a challenge based on where you live. So it's affecting middle-class families the most and down.
And did your background prepare you for a future dealing with housing issues and real estate?
To some degree, yeah. I'm a licensed insurance agent, so I've managed properties. So I have an idea of what, and I at one point was a recipient of government aid and food stamps. I fed my kids with it. My wife and I did at one point. So we know what that life is like. Now my employees are going through a lot of these same challenges. So I think my background did prepare me for it. But what it didn't prepare me for is just some of the harsh realities that aren't highlighted on the news, that the average person won't hear. You know, a family of 4 and 5 living in a hotel because they can't find a house or an apartment to rent that fits their budget. Parents leaving the workforce because they're only working to pay for daycare. They're not making enough to actually benefit or reap the rewards of a paycheck of a part-time job in the service industry. So there are a lot of different challenges that I didn't necessarily know about fully. And that's what is the challenge as an elected official.
You went from living on food stamps to being an elected official. What did you do?
Yeah, so it started, one of the biggest parts is I went and joined the military. And that helped me to become more disciplined as a person. I married up also. You know, my wife is my wife has held me accountable to a standard that I hadn't necessarily been prepared for. So going to the military, getting that discipline, and then from there, just being determined to be successful by any means necessary.
And doing what your wife tells you.
Well, yeah, that part too. You know, I mean, nobody likes to sleep on the couch, and I'm too tall to sleep on the couch consistently. So, no, but no, my wife has definitely been a big driving force in that, and just us working together to create the family unit that in some ways we didn't see growing up.
We started this conversation by talking about someone that we had spoken to, a fellow county commissioner, and an issue that you're keeping your eye on. Could you sort of explain what's going on and how that concerns you?
Yeah, so, you know, the redistricting that took place in Georgia, it's every 10 years. Well, throughout the country, it's pretty much the same. Our state legislature is controlled by the Republican Party, and that's who oversees redistricting. Well, in Cobb County, which had historically been a conservative county, but more recently has become more progressive. And with that, one of the county commissioners, my colleague, Commissioner Jerica Richardson, was drawn out of her district and ultimately told that she was going to have to leave in the middle of her term. Now, she and I were elected the same time in November of 2020. And then she's told that, hey, after your second year, you're out. Ultimately, disenfranchising to some degree all of those citizens who she represented and who voted for her, who voted her in. Now their vote didn't count after 2 years. And so it's very scary, because what it shows me is the willingness by our state legislature to overstep into local matters to the point that even local representation is on the table when it comes to taking away rights.
And what can you do about that, and how are you monitoring and staying on top of what's going on?
So there is a organization for which it stands who has been doing a lot of lobbying to make sure that county commissioners and the community are aware about some of these issues. Additionally, I've been in conversation with Commissioner Richardson and some of our colleagues, other county commissioner colleagues, as well as working with members of the state delegation to say, hey, you know, what are some ways we can stop this? It's been an uphill battle. A lot of it's being fought out in court, and so I've just been paying attention to the updates that I get from Commissioner Richardson and some of her friends that are helping us make sure that everybody is aware of this, because it starts in Cobb County, but if we don't get a hold of it now and address it in a responsible and effective manner now, it's going to become an issue throughout the state.
What's the argument for the folks that went ahead and did this, and why did they think they were doing the right thing?
My understanding is that they didn't have a good one at all. It was a personal matter that kind of spiraled into, a local commissioner using his cronyism with his state, his party mates, if you will, at the state to try to teach them a lesson to some degree. Cobb County has a progressive chairwoman, Chairwoman Cupid. Again, historically, they had been a conservative county. And so I think what we're seeing is a last-ditch effort to try to maintain some of the systems and establishments of old. And I don't think that they have a good reason for it.
You're almost saying they're corrupt. Those are my words. What would your words be?
My word would be, to describe that matter,
disappointing to start, I suppose.
Childish, yeah. And to some degree treasonous.
What about this bothers you the most?
The fact that, again, in the middle of somebody's term, you're redrawing a map that does not actually meet the standards set place by the government as it relates to how we redistrict, first of all. Second of all, the fact that you are taking somebody's elected representative out of office in the middle of their term. That means, you're ultimately just shutting the mouths of everybody who voted that person in. You're taking their voice away just like that, by the stroke of a pen.
What would you like people to know about that? And would you like people to get fired up about this, and how?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many issues to get fired up about right now. And unfortunately, we're seeing so much partisanship play out in ways that are hurting democracy as a whole. And so, I do want people to get fired up about this, not because Commissioner Richardson's a Democrat, though I do support her. I'm a Democrat, but not about the partisan issue, just about the fact that democracy is being sliced away from us little bit by little bit. It's in the redistricting process. It's in the ballots, in the voting process. I mean, if you look at what the Secretary of State has done and saying that if the state election board, if there are issues, the state election board could come in and basically appoint somebody to oversee elections who may not be from that area, who may not know any of the nuances associated with that area. It's really scary for the sake of democracy. I'm a combat veteran, and I've served with people on both sides of the aisles, and we've had very, very candid conversation. And, one thing that we all agreed on was access to vote. And so when you're taking away people's access to vote, when you're taking away their representation, then you're really cutting away at the fabric of American democracy.
Is that why you ran for office?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, not necessarily this specific issue. I ran for office because I knew that I was willing to speak to issues that some may not want to talk about. I felt that I had the poise and the experience to talk about harsh situations with people who may be on different sides of the coin to find common ground. So I looked at myself as a negotiator, as a convener, a consensus builder. But I also felt that we need people in office who have been a part of the system at all rungs of it. And so again, I've been fed by food stamps as a youth. I've fed my children with public assistance, and now I employ people and own property and own businesses and contribute to the community in other ways. So I feel like I have a wide breadth of experience that makes me qualified. Having
been the recipient of good government, certainly in terms of food stamps and service in the military, now you're a county commissioner. Define good government.
In my opinion, good government is simple. It's for the people, by the people, meaning the ballot box is important. Referendums are important. Additionally, my personal philosophy is to teach a man to fish, throw a fish fry for the youth and the elderly and the disabled, those who can't fish on their own, and everybody else, is it's up to them to work. So I look for programs. I like and support programs that are going to help people get on their feet. Again, as a recipient of food stamps, it helped us get on our feet until we didn't need them anymore. And now, I believe that good governance includes giving people opportunities, but not necessarily dependencies.
How do you judge your success as a government official?
I judge it by the emails that I get from my constituents thanking me for their support on certain issues. I judge it by the ability to build consensus on matters that are contentious at times. If we're able to pass items that can be seen by one side of the aisle or the other as a contentious issue, if we're able to pass some kind of policy that works for everybody, we've been successful. So I think that's the best way I can put it at this point.
How should people, or what should people use as their yardstick for knowing if they're getting good government? And how should they hold you accountable?
Well, I think the biggest thing that has to happen is that the community at large, or a person, they have to have an agenda that they see fit to hold our elected officials accountable to. You need a scorecard first. You need a report card. You can't have a report card without subject matter. So first is developing an agenda that you'd like to see carried out. And then from there, an assessment of where you are, and then a casting vision of where you want us to be. And then from there, you just judge has there been any movement on these issues? Now, as an elected official, I could say government takes time. So sometimes we're not able to get stuff done in 1 year, 1 month. However, if you're seeing motion towards the goal take place, then you're moving in the right direction, and that's a huge sign of progress.
And what if they don't see the movement that they want to see?
Then they should be working with their elected officials to, again, hold them accountable, or working with their colleagues in their community to develop leaders who will help move that needle forward. But they have to have an understanding of how the government works.
You've been in office for 4 years now. What have you learned about how government works, and what would you like people to know about how government works?
Yes, sir. So as a correction, I'm in my third year, right? And a couple things I've learned. One, not everybody works as a public servant for the same reason that I do. And so I have to know that, I have to respect that, and move forward in spite of. Additionally, it takes a while to get stuff done, when you're talking about.
So it's slow.
Oh, it's very slow. And, slow on purpose in a lot of ways, because you want to make sure that you're making decisions that best affect the community at large. Something as simple as a pothole on the street, that could turn to a long-term issue because, okay, we can come and patch your pothole right now, or we could repave the whole street. Which would create the better good. The patch may cost us $10,000 now to do, but if we spend $1 million and repave the road, we won't spend $10,000 over 10, 20 times in a 4-year span to patch up potholes. So that's just one example, but ultimately, yes, government processes take a long time, take a lot of time, but the community's input, the community's accountability, in my personal opinion, it helps me stay on point.
You said at the beginning that not everybody got into it for the same reasons you did. And you said, but I have to respect that. Are they honest, respectful reasons for getting into government, or are you disappointed with some people who are in government?
Yeah, I'm disappointed in some ways, and that's on all levels, not just locally. I am disappointed in some cases, but at the same time, again, we didn't get into the game for the same reason. So I'm not going to judge them for that. I will judge them based on their efforts in solving the challenges that we have and moving towards the goals that we set as a community as a whole. So,
are you overall optimistic?
I am optimistic because we're seeing a lot more engagement from younger voters, the next generation, if you will. Right now, I'm 39 years old, and all of my colleagues on my board of commissioners are old enough to be my grandparent. So
You're the next wave?
Yeah, I'm the millennial, right? And so, but, seeing engagement by younger voters now is very encouraging because it shows that the next generation is paying attention. And we need those people who can see tomorrow to be a part of the decision making today.
It doesn't sound like you set off to have a career in politics, but who is your political hero?
President Obama would be one.
Did he inspire you to go into elective office?
To some degree, yes. Ambassador Andrew Young is another. To see the work that they've done to get stuff done is huge to Andrew Young as it relates to just what he did for Atlanta, and then to go on and work as an international ambassador, which is something I aspire to be at some point. It's very inspiring, and it showed me that it's possible. Seeing President Obama get sworn in shortly before I left to join the military was very inspiring, and it felt good serving in Afghanistan for a commander-in-chief that looked like me. And then, and not to make it a racial thing, but it matters. Representation matters in a lot of ways. And so to be able to see people who look like me or come from similar backgrounds progress to positions of leadership is very inspiring. And I think our country is better for it.
I have been to Savannah twice, but I'm coming to see you. You're taking me out. Where are we going? What are we having? What's your favorite Savannah dish?
All right. So I'd say...
if you're not looking, his eyes just lit up. All right.
So we could start with some crab cakes at Belfort's. It's down in City Market. They have good cocktails there.
Good start.
Yep. Maybe we go to the old Pink House. They've got a little basement bar down there, good drinks, also good food, the old Pink House, Good Times Jazz, go check out some live music, and then I'd say lace them up. We start on one end of Congress Street and just go in and bar hop. You've got plenty of...
a lot of drinks. What about food? What are we having?
Well, so crab cakes, of course, are going to be one. We'll get the catfish from Good Times. Got a little spot I like to go to called the Chicken Box, which is an offshoot of Lady and Sons, and they've got like good chicken salad sandwiches. Let's see, where else do we go?
Do you cook at home?
Oh yeah, I cook all the time. I like to grill. So
what are you making?
Oh man, I'm firing up the grill. We'll have some ribs. Probably do some salmon on the grill. With some honey on it, a little honey and lemon pepper glaze.
Is Savannah famous for any particular cuisine, food?
Seafood, just in general, would be the biggest thing. Crab cakes is another one. And just, we have a really...
You love crab cakes.
I do. Okay. We have a bustling food scene.
Sure. No, I didn't go to a bad restaurant when I was in Savannah both times. Yeah. So, growing up as a kid... Were you president of the class? Were you on the student council? Did you want to be president of the United States? Any of that stuff?
No, I was a class clown in the principal's office. Sitting outside in the hallway, seeking approval from my peers and not from myself. And so, no, I don't. It wasn't until my junior year in high school I was voted Mr. Junior. It was popularity. It wasn't about leadership qualities. I can guarantee you that. I was a captain of my track team starting my sophomore year, and so I think that's where some of my leadership qualities developed. And then I'm my older brother. I have my younger brother's 10 years younger than me, so when my mom was divorced, I became the man of the house, so I had to develop some leadership qualities there. So really, government didn't come into my line of sight until probably sometime in 2005, 2006, after I had children, and yeah, somewhere between 2005 and 2009, 2010, when I actually served in the military.
Give me an example of a good government project that you've had a hand in back in Chatham County and Savannah.
So whenever I ran, one of the things I talked about was finding ways to engage our youth in means other than sports. Normally in our area, one of the biggest ways to engage youth was, we're going to have more sports programs. Well, not everybody wants to play sports. And so a program I was able to actually get started, it's in a pilot now. It's called Chatham County Youth Court, and it's court for youth by youth. We're in a pilot program with the Mediation Center of the Coastal Empire, which is a local nonprofit. We got a grant from the University of Georgia to train the youth in how to carry out youth court, and now we are in the pilot with the school system in 5 schools in our school system. Ultimately, how it works is if the youth has a code of conduct violation from their school, and instead of being suspended or in school suspension, they can opt for youth court. Then their case will be heard by a judge who's a peer from another school. The jury will be their peer from another school. Their defense attorney or their advocate is a peer of their own, and then the community advocate or district attorney is a peer. So it's court for youth by youth. And the way I looked at it, I felt like it's an opportunity to engage our youth, introduce them to the criminal justice system in a positive and voluntary manner. Because me personally, my engagement with the criminal justice system was involuntary as a youth.
This probably goes back to the principal's office, I'm guessing?
Yeah. So, that being the case, that's something that's been going. We're in our second year now. We've got success stories, and the hope is...
And a couple future lawyers?
Lawyers, prosecutors, and judges. Absolutely. I think so. And so my hope is that we'll transition this to meet or match some of the models that you'll see in other parts of the state and the country, where this partnership is not with the schools, but with the juvenile court system. And so certain misdemeanors, would qualify to go to youth court. And as long as they carry out the disposition, then they won't have a record. And then one of the dispositions is to serve in the court. So they get to see some different perspectives too. That
sounds like a great project. Chatham County Commissioner Aaron Adot Whiteley.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for talking with us. I've been to Savannah a few times. There's a huge rugby tournament there. I haven't been back there in a while, so I hope to get back.
Well, David, I tell you, when you come back, hit me up and bring your shoes, because we're going bar hopping and we're going to eat some ribs and some crab cakes.
Ribs, crab cakes, and bar hopping. This is something I can get behind. Thank you very much for stopping by. It was a pleasure to meet you, and give our best to Jerica. And, hey, I know you'll be keeping your eye on that situation, and please continue to do so.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I want to tell you what our friends at the LHD Academy of Science are doing. The LHD Academy is the National Association for Local Health Department Data Collectors. Through the Academy of Science, county health directors are coming together to measure their county health issues the same way. Here's the problem. There are over 3,000 counties in the U.S., and they all count differently. We live in a data-driven world. We need all the public health data to be counted the same. Let's say you want to see if your community is overweight, or vaping, or in other ways less healthy than your neighboring counties. To determine this, you'll need to measure these problems the same. You also have to ask the same questions. Different results, but same data points. LHD Academy is working with the National Center for Disease Control, creating a standard to count and collect data the same way. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. They create the process and make sure everyone is looking at the information the same way. This means a county in Connecticut can compare their data with a county in California. It's apples to apples. Now, with the LHD Academy, counties and other governments are pooling resources and sharing data and creating a huge database library. That means lower costs, more accurate results, and better information for everyone. Sound like good government, right? If this sounds like something you want to get for your county or your city, check them out at lhdacademyofscience.org. That's lhdacademyofscience.org. What is it that county government does? That's the question county commissioners get asked the most, and the simple answer is everything. On the Good Government Show, we're so lucky to have talked with so many county commissioners and other county officials that have shown us how effective county government is. County government dates back to, get this, 1634, making it one of the oldest forms of government in the United States. Think about it. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers. In most of the county, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. The National Association of Counties represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices. When county government works well, that's just good government. I don't know about you, but I get fired up when I hear an elected leader that is passionate about defending and promoting good government. And that starts with open and fair elections where no one is prevented in any way from voting or from having their vote count. You can be sure Chatham County Commissioner Aaron A. Whiteley is paying attention. So don't forget to go back and listen to my conversation with Cobb County Commissioner Jerica Richardson. That's our show. Please like us and share us with your friends and review us right here where you're listening. And check out our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, for extras. Help us keep telling the stories of good government in action everywhere. Join us for another episode right here. I'm Dave Martin, and this is The Good Government Show. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershic. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.